Welcome to Carsey Oaks channel with daily story updates. Remember to subscribe. The story begins. On the day I reunited with my biological parents, they fitted me with an expensive hearing aid. When I heard a sound I hadn't heard in a long time, the first thing that came to my mind was to tell Christopher and share this good news with him. But when I found him, he was chatting with friends about his troubles. I know what to do. My family wouldn't let me marry a girl who is deaf and has poor conditions. I just think she's sweet and I enjoy playing with her. My dad said that the youngest daughter of the Johnson family has been found, and we will have an arranged marriage in the future. As expected, his voice is very pleasant to hear. What he said filled me with terror. He turned to see me, and there seemed to be a moment of panic, then he calmly asked me in sign language how I ended up here. I suddenly wanted to know the reason. If Christopher knew that I was the youngest daughter the Johnson family just found, what kind of expression would he have? A few people were chatting with their backs to me, and Christopher's voice was very pleasant, just as I imagined. But what he said sent a chill down my spine. All right, you don't need to say it. I've known for a long time that I'm not on the same level as Emma. My dad had also mentioned to me beforehand that it's just for fun, but it will lead to an arranged marriage in the future. I know my limits. My family would never allow me to marry a poor deaf-mute girl. Now I don't have to worry about a marriage alliance. Emma is so well behaved. What's wrong with playing with her? His friends nearby laughed and said, "You are truly a special person." He took this as a compliment and smiled happily. My dad said the Johnson family's youngest daughter has been found. Emma has been participating in Go competitions lately. After this period is over, I'll break up with her. What do you think? I'm really quite thoughtful, aren't I? I heard every word he said clearly, but I just stood there in a daze. Have I not listened to others for a long time? Why can't I understand these words when they're put together? The boy in front was gently tapped on the shoulder by a classmate and turned to look at me. Christopher seemed a bit stunned, his smile tinged with a hint of nervousness. He asked, "Emma, how come you are here?" I stared at his mouth, confirming that the sound indeed came from him. Seeing that I kept looking without saying anything, Christopher finally relaxed. He said, "Emma is a girl who cannot hear or speak. I wonder what he's so nervous about. Is he really worried she might hear?" He raised his hand to communicate in sign language. "Why did you suddenly come to find me at this time? Do you miss me?" I looked at his slender fingers and slowly came back to my senses. Even though I really wanted to deceive myself, I only realized now that the boy I was thinking about wasn't worth my affection from the very beginning. I really wanted to slap him right now and walk away gracefully. But seeing the unspoken understanding among his friends and recalling what Christopher just said made me feel very uncomfortable. It was such a coincidence that Christopher had no idea I was not only the poor deaf girl he mentioned, but also the little daughter that the Johnson family had just found. I don't know why, but I chose not to let him know the truth. I just shook my head and said nothing. Christopher gently placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "I just finished here. Do you want to go eat together?" I nodded and obediently followed him. The boy behind us joked, "Christopher, are you really taking this little deaf girl to the party?" Christopher turned around, thinking I couldn't see his lips and wouldn't know what he was saying. I wasn't planning to bring her, but she tagged along. There's no helping it. The girl likes to stick to me a bit, and it's not bad to show her the world. I always knew the Christopher family was wealthy, but seeing such a large private room made me realize that if I hadn't been recognized by the Johnson family, Christopher and I might not be in the same league. To some extent, he does have a point. "Nathan, are you here too?" Christopher seemed a bit nervous, and I followed his gaze. That person looked calmer than us. He was wearing a gray casual outfit, lazily leaning in the main seat. He raised an eyebrow when he saw me. "Are you his girlfriend?" Christopher seemed a bit at a loss. Nathan is the oldest in their business circle and usually doesn't hang out with them. Today's situation was a bit awkward. He glanced at the well-behaved girl next to him, unsure how to respond. Should he say she is his girlfriend? Emma's family background doesn't seem very good. Hard to understand, right? Then why did he bring her here? Nathan didn't seem to expect his answer and quietly began to look at the menu. Christopher breathed a sigh of relief. Even though they were the same age, he always felt a bit like a junior in front of Nathan. Perhaps it was because there were still some matters related to his family's project in Nathan's father's hands, which made him feel somewhat inferior. He didn't like it, but he didn't show it. A friend beside me handed me the menu. "Christopher, why not ask your sister-in-law what she wants to eat?" Then he seemed to think of something, found it amusing, and chuckled as he teased. "I forgot that your sister-in-law can't speak, Christopher. Why don't you perform some sign language for everyone?" Christopher's face turned a bit red. He glanced at Nathan and saw that he wasn't looking this way, then casually put his foot on his friend's chair. Nevertheless, he still reminded everyone to eat. He turned to me and asked, "What do you want to eat?" I saw his gesture and gently shook my head. At the moment the waiter took the menu away, his brother suddenly shouted loudly, "Hello, I'll have a pig's ear. Maybe your sister-in-law will feel better if she eats that." Another friend laughed and teased, "You guy, your sister-in-law is still a little mute, why not suggest ordering a pig's snout as well? Waiter, do you have pig's trotters?" A few people chuckled. I secretly glanced at Christopher beside me, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, as if he found it a bit funny too. He didn't defend me or interrupt his friends, just listened as if he had nothing to do with this. I suddenly thought of a point. The attitude of your partner's friends often reflects how your boyfriend feels about you. I found this a bit uncomfortable and couldn't help but frown. The chair scraped against the floor, making a squeaking sound, and everyone's laughter instantly stopped. Nathan gently lifted his eyelids, scanning the boys, then let out a light laugh. Though he didn't say anything, it felt like he said a lot. Christopher's expression immediately became interesting, his smile froze, and he awkwardly glanced at Nathan before clearing his throat, trying to change the subject. I realized that this man, whom I had only met once, was helping me out, and my feelings were a bit complicated. The boyfriend I've been with for so long, who was once the light of my life, now seemed less than a stranger. During the meal, Christopher had a very bad expression, and I could feel he was in a low mood. I found it strange. What could have caused his mood to change so much? Was it the teasing from friends, or Nathan's protection that made Christopher feel a bit awkward? I really couldn't guess his thoughts. Christopher was a bit angry and threw a piece of pig's ear into my bowl, which was so greasy that it made me want to gag. I quietly picked it up and threw it into the nearby trash can. At that moment, the person next to me suddenly stopped breathing, and Christopher was staring at me. I knew he was a bit unhappy. I have always been obedient and compliant, and this was the first time I publicly refused a dish he offered, which made him feel disappointed. However, I really found it very unpleasant. I felt uncomfortable not just with the pig's ear, but with anything he had touched with his chopsticks. For the rest of the time, Christopher kept drinking. Perhaps because Nathan was present, no one joked around anymore, they just ate in silence. The atmosphere was a bit heavy and strange, but Nathan seemed oblivious, quietly eating his meal. During the meal, Christopher casually served me some dishes, but I didn't want to force myself, so I didn't eat a single bite and threw everything into the trash. Christopher's expression was quite interesting, but in front of everyone, he was too shy to ask me in sign language. He wanted to chat with his girlfriend like a normal couple. He leaned close to my ear and quietly asked what was wrong, softly pleading for me to give him some face. But when he saw my hair hanging down covering my ears, he still didn't come closer. He was in a bad mood. I could even say he was very irritated. Seeing the redness in the corners of his eyes, I knew Christopher had drunk too much. He said he was going to pay the bill, and I quietly waited for him in the private room. His friends left one by one, and when the last guy walked out, I still hadn't seen Christopher. After a while, it was just me and Nathan sitting across from me. He was silent for a long time, looked at me, sighed softly, and picked up the coat next to him. "Let's go. I'll take you home." I quietly stood up, but he stopped. I looked up at him and noticed a hint of surprise in his eyes, then he started to smile. "A person who can't hear and can't speak? Little girl, are you joking?" My face felt a bit warm and turned red. He didn't seem to care much, shaking the keys in his hand. "The address." I thought for a moment and decided to fill in my home address. My father said I could stay at my own house for now and it would be fine to move back after the recognition banquet in a week. Nathan drives steadily, and there is relaxing music playing in the car. I looked out at the scenery and couldn't help but recall the various memories of meeting Christopher. The first time I saw Christopher was at an intersection. A large truck ran a red light, honking all the way, seemingly with a broken brake. People around were dodging, but I didn't hear any sound. At that moment, a sudden cool breeze blew by, and I saw a boy in front of me angrily pulling me aside. His face was as red as an apple, pointing at the speeding truck and saying something excitedly. Seeing that I didn't react, he seemed even angrier. Then I noticed his mouth was moving. You should choose a place away from people. Do you know that accidents on the main road can scare little kids? Later, when Christopher realized I couldn't hear, he apologized to me for a long time. He suddenly appeared in my life, like a beam of light. He is learning sign language for me, still gesturing clumsily. He is searching online for how to communicate with deaf mutes. I want to tell him that I am not naturally deaf mute, I can speak. It's just that I don't want to talk anymore. I lost 2 teeth, can't hear sounds, and when I speak, there's a bit of air escaping, which might sound funny. I can imagine my classmates laughing heartily, not knowing if there's something wrong with the way I speak. So, I just decided not to speak. But Christopher seems afraid to mention my sad story. He thinks I am congenitally deaf and tells me not to feel inferior. The car door made a sound. I turned to see Nathan frowning and looking outside. I can't believe you live in a place like this. I nodded and then shook my head. I will be moving out soon. He didn't ask anything further, just gave me a string of phone numbers. If you need it, you can call this number. He thought for a moment and added, "This isn't mine, it's my assistant's, so don't feel like it's a bother." I nodded, thanking him for his kindness. He glanced at me and then drove away. In the following days, I didn't see Christopher. I blocked his contact information because every time I'm with him, I feel so foolish. Until the recognition banquet a week later, my dad came early to pick me up. He looked at the name in my book and was silent for quite a while. "From now on, you'll be called Emma Johnson." I nodded. The name didn't matter to me. The recognition banquet was more grand than I had imagined. I was like a puppet being dressed up in a gorgeous gown. Looking at my reflection in the mirror with my ears deliberately covered, I couldn't help but scoff. No matter how much I cover, I'm still a deaf person who needs a hearing aid to hear faint sounds. As my father led me to the center of the banquet, I looked up and saw Nathan. He looked completely different today, dressed in an exquisite black suit, and there was a clear look of surprise in his eyes. He seemed to think of something amusing, smiling as he raised his glass and shook it towards me. My face turned a bit red as I suddenly remembered his teasing remark before, "Little girl, you're quite the liar." I gently cleared my throat and looked up to find Christopher standing still in the distance. His eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at me. After a while, his breathing became rapid, and he almost dropped the wine glass, hurriedly walking over to me. Seeing him come over on his own, my father smiled so wide that his eyes almost closed. He took my arm and walked forward 2 steps, smiling as he said, "Emma, let me introduce you. This is Christopher. You're about the same age, so you can chat." Faced with Christopher's surprised gaze, I calmly said, in a tone that was both gentle and firm, "Dad, I don't like him. Can we get someone else to meet?" My father seemed taken aback by my response and was left stunned. Christopher stopped in his tracks, frowning as he stared at me. He asked, "Emma, are you the youngest daughter of the Johnson family? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" He seemed to realize I couldn't hear, so he hurriedly put down his wine glass and tried to communicate with me using sign language. I quietly watched his clown-like performance before I spoke up. "Yeah, surprised?" "Christopher." Seeing that we knew each other and the atmosphere was a bit awkward, my father chuckled softly twice. "Emma, do you two know each other?" He then explained to Christopher. "Emma's hearing wasn't very good before, but recently I took her to get a hearing aid. Don't worry, it doesn't affect her daily life. The reason for bringing me back is for an arranged marriage. I shouldn't be looked down upon because of this." "A while ago?" How long exactly did "a while ago" refer to? Upon hearing this, Christopher's face instantly turned very pale. He wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. He was afraid to ask because he dreaded hearing the answer that terrified him. But after a while, he suddenly felt a surge of anger. He stepped forward, grabbed my hand, and pulled me into a corner. His father did not follow him. Seeing Christopher's chest heaving with anger, I found it strange. What could he possibly be so angry about? But Christopher didn't think so. He confidently asked me, "Emma, do you find it funny to joke with me? You can hear now and can speak. Why didn't you tell me? You thought it was fun watching me sign over there, right?" Actually, it really wasn't that interesting. I directly interrupted his tough attitude. But if I had said it earlier, I wouldn't have had the chance to hear Christopher's wonderful speech. "What's wrong? Does my current identity make you unhappy?" Christopher seemed to think of something, but he was still unwilling to admit it. "Emma, what are you talking about? I don't quite understand." "Really?" I looked at the red wine in my hand. I'm no longer that deaf-mute girl from a poor family, but rather the young lady of the Johnson family that you might want to marry. I'm not as obedient as you think. Do you still want to play with me? Now Christopher realized that I really hurt him, and he could no longer hide it. He completely panicked, stepped forward to grab my arm, and his tone became very anxious. Emma, what I just said was just casual talk. If I had known you could hear, I wouldn't have said that. That statement made me very uncomfortable, and I shot him a disgusted look. I hope next time Christopher encounters a deaf-mute girl, he can be more careful. What if she hears it? You really make people feel uncomfortable. Christopher swayed a bit. Emma's words made him feel very uneasy. It felt as if something heavy had struck his heart, and pain spread throughout his body. He wanted to reach out and grab her, but the girl had already turned and walked away. During dinner, Father gently set down his bowl and chopsticks. Do you know Christopher? I nodded. This relationship is not simple, is it? Hearing him ask this tentatively, I didn't respond. He let out a long sigh. Emma, don't be so willful. After saying that, he stood up and left, leaving only my older sister slowly eating at the table. I gently set down my bowl and chopsticks, turned to go back to my room, but she called out to me. She said, Emma, if you still have a chance with Christopher, don't throw a tantrum. Her eyes were filled with disappointment. You are a smart girl. I understood what she meant. My older sister is getting engaged next month. She is going to marry an older man she doesn't love. I have seen him, and he looks older than my father, completely bald. I heard that he has lost 2 wives, and my father was in a hurry to bring me back because the family needs a marriage alliance. It's somewhat funny to think that in this day and age, people are still talking about marrying off princesses. He gave me great conditions and even helped me get the best cochlear implant. I don't know how I'll ever repay him. Maybe it's because he was afraid I would be hard to control. My father started arranging for me to attend parties with Christopher frequently. The 3rd time I ran into Christopher, I saw Nathan not far away, and a childish thought suddenly popped into my mind. Before I could react, I found myself unconsciously walking towards him. He looked up and didn't seem surprised at all by my approach. Emma, long time no see. I gently raised my glass and clinked it against his. You can call me Emma. He glanced at the red wine glass in my hand and raised his eyebrows slightly. An adult now? Then go ahead and drink. His comment suddenly deflated the somewhat ambiguous atmosphere, and I looked at him, feeling a bit displeased. Do I really look that young? I'm already 21. He curled his lip and looked towards Christopher in the distance. So young? Your dad is really in a hurry. We all know what he means. Why was I chosen? He took a sip of his drink. Maybe it's because you helped me back then. I think you're a pretty decent person. It seemed like he heard something interesting. Nathan almost dropped his glass and coughed violently. I'm a bit embarrassed. I heard that complimenting a man can bring you closer, but this person seems to not care at all. Is what I said really that funny? The atmosphere over there was too harmonious, fueling Christopher's anger. In the past, Emma only had him by her side. Even though Emma was very beautiful, she was deaf and mute, and everyone was hesitant to approach her. This was the first time he realized that Emma was actually a very charming and beautiful girl. With her flushed face and slightly reproachful expression, she caught his eye. He took a few steps forward and interrupted the conversation between the two. When I saw Christopher suddenly appear, I decided to ignore him. However, Christopher grabbed my arm and turned to walk out the door. He was still so assertive, I instinctively wanted to push him away, but my other arm was also grabbed. I turned around and saw Nathan holding a wine glass in one hand, gently swirling it, while casually gripping my arm with the other. His hand was warm, his tone still relaxed, but there was an undeniable intensity that made it hard to refuse. I wanted to ask last time, hasn't Christopher taught you any manners? This lady is talking to me right now. Christopher seemed caught off guard that Nathan would embarrass him in front of so many people. His face immediately turned red, and he awkwardly let go of my arm. The noise here was quite loud, and I was surprised to see my father walking over. I remembered that only my sister and I were supposed to be at the banquet today. When did my father arrive? How long has he been here? Nathan. His eyes were fixed on Nathan, as if he had seen something special, and he hurriedly handed over the wine glass. How is your father's health? I've been very busy lately and haven't had time to see Nathan. If given the chance, I really hope to say more good things in front of him. He patted my shoulder, wearing a satisfied smile on his face. Emma, I didn't expect you to know Nathan. You're around the same age, so you should interact more with peers. Emma has been a bit introverted since she was young, and Nathan often plays with her. I felt a bit disdainful inside, but I didn't show it, just watching him trying hard to act like a caring father. In fact, he hardly remembers what I looked like as a child. Christopher's expression changed repeatedly. He had previously been concerned about Johnson's father, but now it seemed like he completely ignored him. In the face of absolute strength, he was completely overlooked. But what troubled him more was Emma's gaze. When he grabbed Emma's arm just now, he clearly felt her resisting strongly. Emma felt very annoyed by his touch. He felt restless, gripping the wine glass tightly, and when he looked at Nathan, he no longer felt the same awe as before. After father left, Christopher still didn't leave, but neither Nathan nor I looked at him. He quietly stared at me for a long time. Actually, you could take it easy. Why do you have to come back? I think he has heard some rumors and knows about father's plans. A hint of bitterness crept into the corners of my mouth as I gently tapped my hearing aid by my ear. I need money, a lot of it. He didn't expect me to be so straightforward. He was taken aback for a moment and then smiled even more brightly. He pointed to the pocket of his suit. In fact, I also have quite a bit of money in my hands. Christopher's face looked very ugly. We completely ignored him, which made him very unhappy. Christopher, the rich young man, had never been treated with such neglect. He desperately tried to squeeze himself between us. Emma, I also have a lot of money, you know. I lifted my eyelids and glanced at him. Is that so? We've been together for 2 years. What have you ever bought for me? Christopher's expression froze. He had never spent a penny on me, always just talking about it. I avoided him and turned to walk towards the banquet hall. When I just came out of school, the weather was still nice, but before I reached the bus stop, it suddenly poured rain. I looked up and saw Christopher's handsome face. The rain dripped down along his prominent chin, drop by drop. Christopher really is quite good-looking. Even when soaked to the skin, he still looks particularly handsome. He took off his helmet and handed it to me, wiped the rain off his face, and smiled particularly happily, just like before. From behind, he magically pulled out a light yellow raincoat. Christopher used to love riding his motorcycle to take me for a spin. Although I couldn't hear the sounds, I could feel the wind blowing past my ears. To be able to pick me up and drop me off at school even in the rain, Christopher specially bought a cartoon little yellow duck raincoat. Emma, hurry and get in the car. I still didn't move, as a car quietly drove up in front of us. It was a black stretch Lincoln, looking particularly luxurious after being washed by the rain. Nathan slowly got out of the car, holding a black umbrella and a soft wool coat in his hand. He didn't say a word, just handed me the coat and tilted the umbrella slightly towards me. The warmth from the car's heater lingered on him, and I smiled slightly as I draped the coat over my shoulders. I turned and sat in the back seat under his umbrella. I could tell Christopher was very angry. He slammed the motorcycle down and threw the helmet hard against the car's taillight. I couldn't help but shiver and turned to look at Nathan beside me. He still looked indifferent and lazy, as if he didn't care at all. Then, he rolled down the window and said to the furious Christopher, "I'll send the bill to your dad's phone later." Christopher's eyes widened, and I couldn't help but laugh. The car slowly left the bus stop, and seeing Christopher still standing in the pouring rain, I slightly raised my eyebrows. "What's wrong? Starting to feel sorry for him?" Nathan joked from the side, and I couldn't help but shake my head. "Actually, I just felt sorry for that motorcycle. It has accompanied me many times, yet it was carelessly left by the roadside, no longer useful, and would ultimately be discarded." I pulled my gaze back and didn't look back again. When my sister got engaged, my dad was very happy, drank a little too much, and hosted many guests. My brother-in-law brought him a lot of resources, making the entire wedding both grand and lively. If it weren't for the tears in the eyes of the wedding protagonist, this wedding would have been even more perfect. Seeing them exchanging rings, my father came up to me, as if he wanted to say something. "Your sister is really great, very capable. It's brought a lot of benefits to our family, Emma," Nathan said in a lowered voice as he walked slowly towards me. "You should seize this opportunity. Such chances are rare." I lowered my head to hide my complex feelings. My father might have thought Nathan couldn't hear, but he actually did. "Is Uncle talking about me?" My father didn't expect him to say it so directly, making the situation a bit awkward. Nathan's voice wasn't quiet, and many people turned to see what was happening, prompting my father to start making light of it. I was just joking. Nathan shook his head. He didn't think it was a joke. However, Uncle, you were wrong. Teaching Emma how to deal with men is less effective than teaching me how to pursue her. No sooner had he finished speaking than Dad began to cough violently. People around were also curiously looking my way because Nathan is someone everyone wants to befriend in this circle. I didn't expect Nathan to support me like this. After all, I'm just a girl who has just entered high society and has many shortcomings. For the first time, I was being looked at with envy and surprise by so many people, and I felt a bit nervous. Nathan seems completely oblivious. He is still leisurely eating snacks next to him, occasionally putting a piece into my bowl. The gaze from not far away is too obvious for me to ignore. Christopher is staring at us intently, too afraid to approach Nathan. So, he stays in the back of the banquet, trapping me at the restroom door. When I came out of the restroom, I saw Christopher. I wanted to bypass him and leave quickly, but found that he was blocking the way completely. Emma, why are you so naive? Do you really think you have enough charm to make Nathan bow down to you? I felt a jolt in my heart. The situation is like this again. Christopher always tells me in a tone that makes me uncomfortable that I'm not good enough, but he doesn't even notice my reaction and continues to speak to himself. Do you know why Nathan approached you? Because of me. He pointed at himself, looking at me with a mocking smile. His father is in competition with my father on a project. You are my girlfriend, and he is using this opportunity to make me uncomfortable. Do you really think he would fall for me? He glanced past my ear and chose to remain silent. Emma, believe me, I'm the only one who truly loves you. We've been together for so long and know each other well. I really don't want to hear him rambling on over there. I took off my headphones and quietly looked at him. Christopher seemed taken aback by my reaction. He froze for a moment, then his eyes turned red. I saw his mouth moving, as if he was trying to say something to me. Do you really dislike me that much? I nodded. That's right, I really don't want to hear your voice. After regaining my hearing, it's the thing I dislike the most. Christopher, stop pretending to love me. Deep down, you look down on me. You say you love me, but every word hurts me. Don't even talk about not being worthy of Nathan. You don't even want to believe I'm worthy of you. If I weren't a member of the Johnson family, or didn't have that kind of background, would you still pursue me? A hint of panic flashed in Christopher's eyes. He opened his mouth to explain, but he spoke too quickly, and I couldn't understand what he was saying at all. He seemed to realize this and hurriedly started to communicate using sign language. I turned my gaze to Nathan not far away. Even if he doesn't like me, he is still so much better than you. Christopher, you're just pathetic. When others insult my girlfriend in front of you, you laugh and go along with it, which shows that deep down you think they're not wrong and have never respected me. But Nathan is different. He would protect me in front of others, even when we weren't close back then. Perhaps it was the warmth in my gaze towards Nathan that made Christopher uncomfortable, and his emotions completely spiraled out of control. He eagerly turned my face towards him, expressing himself with gestures. I saw his long fingers trembling. What has he done for you? Emma, is he willing to learn sign language for you? Look, I've been learning sign language for a long time for you. I'm willing to do anything for you. I know I was wrong. I've only made this mistake once. Can you forgive me this time? I gently shook my head. Looking at his red-rimmed eyes and slightly trembling hands, I knew that at least he wouldn't abandon me or turn his back and say he was just playing around with me. The casual mention of just play around deeply affected Christopher. He couldn't help but tremble all over, holding my face in his hands, and seriously said to me, "This is not something to say lightly. I was wrong before, and it was really terrible. I will never say that again." Suddenly, a gentle force pulled me out of Christopher's embrace. A warm hand gently took away my hearing aid, softly brushed my hair aside, and carefully put the hearing aid back in my ear. He was very close, his breath right next to my ear. As soon as the hearing aid was on, I heard the sound of his heartbeat, strong like a drum. "I think you made a mistake about something you said." Nathan held my hand and turned to look at Christopher. "Do you think I got close to Emma just to get back at you? You really think too much." He chuckled softly, as if he had heard something amusing. "I really didn't learn sign language for her." He lowered his head and looked at me gently. "I hope she can live like a normal person. I want her to be free from this hearing aid." I stared at him blankly, while Nathan proudly played with his phone. He told me that he got in touch with a very capable ear doctor, just spoke with Uncle Johnson, and it feels like we can set off in a few days. At this moment, I felt warm inside, thinking about how someone who has been with me for 2 years only said we were playing, while someone who barely knows me has already started planning for me. Christopher stretched out his stiff fingers, trying to catch the two people who were gradually walking away. But Emma walked too fast, and everything in front of him became a blur. He took a couple of steps forward, but Emma still didn't look back. The gentle and lovely girl would cover her mouth and giggle when he made mistakes in sign language. In the end, she still didn't turn back to look at him even once. When I arrived at the airport, I saw Christopher desperately running after me. His eyes were red, and he was running wildly through the airport hall until our eyes met, and he stumbled towards me. Emma, Emma! He grabbed my arm, looking like a fish about to suffocate. I quietly looked at him. Christopher trembled as he took out a stack of papers from his pocket and placed them in front of me. He said, "Emma, don't go with him. I can also take you to see a good doctor. I'm willing to do anything for you. Just look at this. This is the explanation for my share transfer. If you are with me, I can give you money if you want. I have already talked to your dad. As long as you are willing to be with me, I can transfer all these shares to him." I looked at him and felt very uncomfortable inside. "Christopher, do you think you are very sentimental?" Christopher didn't show any surprise in my eyes, which left him a bit puzzled. "I am not an object. You can't trade me with these things for my dad. What do you think my position is in your heart? If my dad agrees, then go marry him. No matter in the past or now, you have never truly respected me. You may just see me as a little thing attached to you, or a pet, but I am a real person." Seeing Nathan walking towards me in the distance, I stuffed the stack of papers back into his hands. "I have decided to get engaged to Nathan, and the things you gave me, he will also give me, just not in this way." Seeing his disappointed expression, I said to him, "To love someone, you must first respect her. You need to win her heart, not her father's approval. You have to be sincere and show your respect. Remember to treat her as an equal." After saying that, I turned around and took Nathan's hand to leave. Christopher stood there, watching us leave. I never thought that after taking off my hearing aid, I would still be able to hear the sounds of this world again. The surgery was very successful, and Nathan and I held an engagement party abroad. On that day, I wore a wedding dress, and the security guard brought a scruffy-looking man in front of me. I frowned, wondering what was going on, and it took me a while to recognize him as Christopher. How did he end up here? I was really surprised. Nathan said that Christopher's unauthorized transfer of shares made his father very angry. Christopher is not the only child, the competition in his family is fierce, so he lost his inheritance rights. His father said that as long as he stayed honestly in the country, there would still be opportunities in the future. But here he was. I looked at Christopher, who was unshaven and looked almost unrecognizable. "So why is he here?" "You can ask him yourself." Nathan turned and walked away, standing by the door, a bit far from us but not too far. I stepped forward and gently poked Christopher's arm. After a while, he slowly lifted his eyelids. Seeing it was me, his breathing suddenly became rapid. However, after a moment, he sighed helplessly. "I actually fainted near your house." "Christopher, how did you end up here?" He didn't answer me. Instead, he stared at my eyes with a greedy gaze. "Emma, why don't you go back to your country?" I glanced at Nathan, who was not far away. "Because I want to grow independently. I don't want to just be a tool for my father. Nathan is willing to support me. I want to take control of my own life. I hope to become a different version of myself here." Christopher's smile became even more bitter. "If you don't go back, what am I supposed to do?" I didn't understand what he was saying. "You are amazing, Emma. Actually, if I could, I would wish we never met. You made me fall for you, but then completely abandoned me." I tried to give up, but his eyes were filled with pain, and with his head down, tears fell to the ground one by one. I've never seen Christopher look so defeated. He really seems to be falling apart. I've never liked someone as much as I do now. I wish that by drinking more or keeping myself busy, I could forget you, but Emma, without you by my side, I can't breathe at all. I feel really awful. I feel suffocated even in my own home. I just want to be by your side, even if you don't love me, or even if you don't want to see me. Do you know what I was thinking when I came here? I've never felt this relaxed before. I'm finally in the same space as you, and you're right here beside me. I'm no longer hoping for you to love me, nor am I asking for your forgiveness, Emma. I just hope to be in a place where you are. My complex gaze was fixed on the rambling Christopher, momentarily at a loss for words. Nathan's gloomy voice came from behind. Do you think I have such a good personality that you can easily interfere in my affairs? Christopher was still sent back to his country by Nathan. He told Christopher that he has serious psychological issues and suggested he find a good mental health facility to stay in for a while. On the night of our wedding, Nathan leaned close to my ear softly. This time I didn't need my hearing aid. I could hear everything very clearly. He asked, when I first met you, I said you had good character. Do you know why I laughed? I looked at him in confusion, thinking, did I really say that? He smiled. I think you're really adorably silly. Actually, I've never been that great. I suddenly developed a fondness for my brother's girlfriend. He leaned in close, his ears feeling as hot as fire. I heard the softest whispers.